Good evening and welcome to Across the Pitch. We're the soccer show for people who think MLS is a real estate directory.
I always hate it when you type in MLS into the Google search bar and you get all the real estate hits first.
Oh, I hate that.
I have no idea what you're talking about because I'm a foreigner, so I'll let you guys laugh at that one. Thanks, Phil.
There's this thing, if you just type in MLS.com, it's a directory of all the houses that are for sale, and you have to go to MLSsoccer.com to get to the Major League Soccer website.
Have you checked how much it would cost to buy that MLS.com? Because I'm sure they've probably tried, haven't they?
Oh, yeah, probably.
On tonight's show, we wash the dishes in Spain, we replay Gone with the Wind, and we're not talking about Fantasy League because I'm just there making up the numbers, and this is my goddamn intro. Plus, Matt Robards is going to school us on the new Major League Soccer season because we need some help. But first,
make sure you head on over to Facebook and follow us at Across the Pitch and on Instagram as well. And we would ask you to head on over to the iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. And if you do that, we'll give you a shout out on the next show.
Hey, if you haven't gone and checked out Instagram, Matt Robards takes care of that. He does a damn good job, I have to say. There's some really, really funny stuff on there.
Oh, well, thank you. I try to be a little bit clever.
You do all right.
The Instagram looks great. One quick thing I did want to mention is that the Twitter is at Across Pitch. No, the in the middle, it's just at Across Pitch is where you'll find us on Twitter. Thank you, as always, for joining us tonight. My name is Phil Kennedy, and as always, I'm here with my co-hosts,
Arran and
Matt Robards.
Thank you for joining me tonight, gentlemen. We have some exciting stuff to talk about, and I think that this is one of my favorite times of the year because you have the Premier League, the English leagues, the Champions League. Those are all in the stretch run. This is when it's getting exciting. And over here on this side of the pond, we have the MLS and the USL seasons kicking off. So I don't know about you guys, but last Saturday I started watching soccer at 5:30 in the morning and watch soccer straight through until 10 p.m. I don't know if I'm the only one.
It was fabulous. We have families, but that's okay, Phil. You do what you want.
It's the amazing thing about being an overseas supporter is we get all those early games from the European leagues, and then we can just watch the MLS through the rest of the day. And you can lose an entire Saturday doing that, Phil, which apparently you did.
That sounds like a fabulous Saturday. That's a dream Saturday for me, provided my teams win, of course.
Yeah, it was a bit of a rough Saturday for Arsenal as they ended up with a 1-1 draw at Tottenham. Obviously, the penalty kick by Aubameyang, that was one that you kind of expect to go in and really expected to get the 3 points there.
Again, I don't know. I just had a feeling that even though it was vindicated and that penalty the other end shouldn't have stood, it just didn't look like it was going in. I just had this feeling when he slotted up there, when he lined up on the penalty spot, he didn't look confident.
It didn't come off like his normal attempt.
Have you guys ever looked at Aubameyang's penalty record? He's not very good at them. I was surprised as somewhat of a neutral. I had a little vested interest in this because the draw actually helps out Chelsea. But I was surprised to see Aubameyang step up and take that. I would have thought, a number of other people on the pitch for Arsenal would have stepped up there.
Lacazette.
That was the first one he missed all year.
Lacazette, Ramsey.
Yeah, they both substituted. Like what?
Oh, so maybe he was just it, huh?
Yep, I reckon.
I don't know about his record when he was in Germany, but I believe that that was his first miss this year.
Yeah, Aubameyang's record in Germany was not great. I stopped watching much of him after he left Dortmund.
Like I said, I'm not that familiar with his record in Germany because I don't really watch Bundesliga. I've watched every Arsenal game this year, and I don't recall him missing a penalty. Do you recall him missing one before that, Aaron?
I don't think he did. I think there were all green spots all over the telecast there, and they were left and right, but I just had a feeling he wasn't going to get it. Lads, that's a wonderful little segue into what our first topic is tonight, which is our Champions League matches today. We're recording on a Tuesday, which is a little unusual for us. Borussia Dortmund was playing today. They got bounced out of the Champions League despite 26 or 27 shots on target. Oh, no, beg your pardon. 27 shots and 6 on target or something in that area. And Tottenham somehow managed to hold on for a 1-0 win. I don't know how that happens, but well done, Tottenham, you bastards.
I think Tottenham was just playing Dortmund at a perfect time, man. Dortmund's been very poor recently. They've blown their lead they had in the Bundesliga. They're now tied on points with Bayern Munich at 54 apiece, and they just have not been playing well. I think they just lost their last league game to Augsburg, which is Augsburg.
Yes, it was the first game they ever lost to Augsburg.
Which is, I mean, you're talking just a shock defeat. And so Tottenham got them at the right time, and I don't see Tottenham going past the next round. But good win for them. It keeps them distracted for a little bit more in the season, which helps out both of our clubs.
Definitely.
Because Tottenham's going to be focused on that because it's the only chance they have to win a trophy this year.
The other thing is they were already up 3-0 coming into today. And I kind of have to think that Dortmund probably wasn't coming in thinking they were going to overturn that. You know, they may have just said, you know, look, we're going to focus on Bundesliga. This just isn't going to happen to the Champions League.
Yeah.
You're probably right, Phil. I think you're right. They did have a good shot at it, and honestly. I mean,
they had an extra day of rest as Pochettino made sure everybody knew before the game.
Starting to sound a little bit like Jurgen Klopp making up some excuses, huh?
Before we get on to that one, lads, we did have another game today, and this one was spectacular. I don't think I've ever seen a game like this. Did you happen to watch it by any chance, lads? Because it was Real Madrid at home. This is the Champions League holders, absolutely thrashed by an Eredivisie side, which I think we mentioned as somewhat second rate. All of a sudden they came out there and walloped them. They literally ran circles around Real Madrid, and that was Ajax of Amsterdam. And yes, that was my little thing about doing the dishes in Madrid. It was like basically a walk in the park for these guys. They literally destroyed them. I've never seen a Real Madrid side look so poor.
Yeah, man. I watched this game and Real Madrid just looked out of sorts. This has been a rough week for them. They had 2 El Clasicos, one in the Copa del Rey, which is the League Cup there in Spain, against, their rivals Barcelona. They lost that game, so that knocked them out of that competition. Then they had another El Clasico against Barcelona in the league. Right. They lost that game, and now they're sitting third in La Liga. And so this was the chance, like you had mentioned, they're the holders, not just the holders, the 3-time repeat holders. And they go out and, man, Ajax came out and stood toe-to-toe with them. And you got to give Ajax credit. They did not back down. And if I'm the next team that gets drawn against Ajax, I might be scared a little bit because those boys come to play.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And as you said, they've taken down the champions. They're not afraid of anyone now. This team, they are going to really give everyone a run for their money.
You know what I was thinking, and I did mention this to you earlier today, and I know that the Spurs obviously may not even move out of Wembley this year, but wouldn't it be ironic if Ajax was the first team ever to play in the Spurs' new stadium?
This is the toilet, I get it.
Yeah, we might need to, if you're a listener of the show and you haven't Googled Tottenham's new stadium, just go do it and kind of take a look at some of the aerial views. You might realize that the top of the stadium looks strikingly similar to the top of your toilet bowl. And so there's the joke for you.
Not strikingly similar. It is. I don't know what they were thinking, those architects. Surely they had some above ground renderings of this before they did the stadium. Unless they were the same ones that, I don't know, did the Arsenal stadium, which is probably the best ground in London.
My theory is that the lead architect for the Tottenham stadium is really an Arsenal supporter.
I happen to believe.
And he pulled one over on him. But yeah, Ajax completely dominated this game. Real Madrid just did not know what to do. And I think this speaks to just the bigger problem Real Madrid's having this season. They lost Cristiano Ronaldo in the summer. He was to Juventus. They didn't really replace him with anybody, and it's starting to show now. They didn't even look urgent after they went down 3-0. They kind of were just passing the ball around and kind of moving slowly. And I mean, the wheels fell off for them, man. Nacho picks up a red card in the 93rd minute. It was bad.
The thing that struck me, that you're right, it was the urgency. Ajax just had all that urgency. They were first to the balls. The second goal, or maybe even the fourth goal, I can't remember which, the defender for Ajax slid in, kept the ball somehow in play. We didn't get an aerial view on that. From there, just managed to score a screamer of a goal from that point.
Yeah.
It was just that effort and that tenacity to every single ball that just blew me away. This is a team, may not have the big players like your Galacticos there at Madrid, but they are a unit that works well together. I was very impressed with Ajax today.
They looked great, man. And we got to talk about that free kick. I'm going to ruin this guy's name, but Lassie Schoen in the 72nd minute, curling that one in perfectly over the outstretched hands of Thibaut Courtois. I mean, that was just a beautiful, beautiful free kick.
Just pause for a moment.
To break in here, I know this is normally Aaron's thing, but this is just across the news desk. My buddy Tyler just announced that he's become a father for the first time. Congratulations to Tyler and Deanna. You remember Tyler and Deanna? They came out to the Rising game with us last year.
Yes. More breaking news at across the pitch.
Now back to the show.
Can I have a chat about Tadic for Ajax and how this is what I'm saying when they literally ran rings around Real Madrid today. Like, he got a ball in from the sideline there from the right and 2 touches, boom, boom, ran the defender, and the defender didn't know where he was. Like, it was just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, watch out for these guys. If you're going to watch the next round of Champions League, don't know who to go for because perhaps you're Borussia Dortmund or something. Maybe go and hitch your wagon onto the Ajax team there because they are looking damn good.
Listen to some of these stats for Tadic against Real Madrid. He won 6 duels, completed 100% of his clearances, completed 5 key passes, which was more than any other player, created 3 big chances. He completed 4 out of 4 of his takes on, 2 shots on goals, 2 assists, and scored an amazing goal. I mean, like, that guy put in a performance against the 3-time champions of the Champions League. Like Aaron was saying, if you don't have a team in the Champions League right now, watch Ajax. As I stated earlier, whoever they get drawn against should have some fear in them. Ajax can come out and play, and I think they could take down anyone left in the competition.
Yep. On the way they played today, absolutely agree with you there, mate. Amazing.
In addition to the Champions League, there's a lot of other action that's happening around the world. We kicked off with the opening round of the MLS last Saturday and Sunday, as we mentioned earlier. The first thing that we wanted to talk about is what we considered, or at least I considered to be the match of the week, was the Snow Classico 3 between Colorado and Portland. I know you watched that one also. Matt, what did you think about that game?
Man, that was a great way to kick off the MLS weekend. You know, like you said, Snow Classico 3. For all those U.S. men's national teams out there, they might remember the first Snow Classico, U.S. Costa Rica World Cup qualifier. And this one was the same, man. They had to call the grounds crew out to clear the lines. You had a red card in there for a deliberate handball in the box. You had a 94th minute winner by a rookie for Colorado. It just had everything. It had that drama, that suspense. 10-man Colorado coming back to draw at home against a Portland team that looks very strong this year. So it was a great game, and I agree with you, Phil, probably the game of the week.
If you're an NFL fan, you know that there's just something about a game in the snow, you know, those classic like Cleveland-Pittsburgh games or the Buffalo Bills games back in the 90s where they were good, where, you know, it's something about playing a game in the snow. And then you imagine playing soccer in the snow, it's a whole nother element because everything you're doing is with your feet. And we're not just talking a little bit of snow here. We're talking about when they would do a close-up of a shoe, you would see the shoe was at least submerged a good 2 to 3 inches of snow was piled up on the field. They were having to shovel off the lines at times. It was a literal blizzard that they were playing in. And somehow they still played a game that it would have been a great game in any weather. And then it just had that whole other element. They had the orange ball out and everything.
The orange ball, yes.
And we got to give a huge shout out to the Colorado supporters that stayed there through that snowstorm. If it was me, I would have left as soon as it had started. I don't play around with snow.
But come on, mate, now. You're a Phoenician.
I live in the desert for a reason, man.
Exactly. I'm sure we've said that more than once, and maybe that should go on a T-shirt or something. Hey, I just want to go back to something you said earlier, Matt, about the...
Wait, I have to do it again. We have more breaking news. We have just had a celebrity sign up for our fantasy MLS league.
Stop. Who is it?
None other than our guest from a few weeks ago, Minnesota United announcer Callum Williams.
Hey.
All right.
And at the end of the season, we're going to have a great across-the-pitch prize package for you. We're going to send you out some cool stuff to whoever wins, but also Callum Williams, Major League Soccer announcer. So we're all in trouble now because
he's going to kick our ass, isn't he? He's going to kick our ass.
or he's not going to come on the show again after I beat him. I'm not sure what'll happen.
I'm not new to the States. I've been here coming up 7-ish years. But honestly, I haven't watched much of the MLS, and that's on me. I'm going to learn a lot more about it this year. But I want to go back, and I'm going to ask you a few more questions after this, and I think Phil probably wants a few too, Matt. We're going to pick your brain here. You mentioned Snow Classico before. Now, that is I know where that came from, but perhaps you can explain that wonderful portmanteau there that just fell off your tongue like it was nothing.
Yeah, Snow Classico kind of started when the U.S. played Costa Rica in a World Cup qualifier back in 2013. And it got to the point where the U.S. won, and then Costa Rica afterwards kind of complained because they lost the game and they said it should have been called. But there was this great moment in that game, and I encourage you to go back and watch the highlights on YouTube, where the ref calls the captains together and talks about, hey, it's snowing. Do you guys want to play? And players from both teams were like, no, we got to play this. So they went on and played it, and kind of the image from that was, if you guys remember Jermaine Jones.
Oh, yes.
Kind of the German, at that time he had a fro, and all the snow had kind of stuck to his fro. So it was just this white puffball on his head. And I mean, it was a classic game. And then the next Snow Classico took place sometime during MLS play. And then we got the third one this year. And like Phil talked about, it's so hard to play soccer in that much snow because really at that point, you take the studs off your cleats because they're not doing anything. They're just going to hurt your feet because the ground's too hard. So now you're just kind of playing on this molded plastic bottom of a boot. And the steps you take are going to be a lot shorter than normal because you want to keep your footing. You're not going to be able to cut as much. And then it provides a whole different ball game for the goalkeepers. And so it was great, man, to see. And hopefully we see more Snow Classicos.
Snow Classicos. I love it. It's an interesting thing. A friend of mine once asked me, and shout out to Josh. How are you, mate? He's been listening to our podcast and everything. He's that Everton fan I was telling you about. So, hey, mate, he was talking about in the NFL when you have snowy games versus rainy games, what would you do? What would your main play be? Would you run it or would you throw it? And I just hazarded a guess and said you'd throw it because it's going to be awful underneath. And he said, yeah, that's right. These guys are playing in the snow. Their feet, I don't know. I just kind of want to equate that for our American viewers. I don't know. That kind of blew my mind, actually, that little fact.
Yeah.
If it is indeed a fact, Phil.
Anytime that you see a game that's snowing, gamblers will bet the under in the NFL because teams are going to be running the ball, keeping it on the ground. Because one thing, if the ball is wet, the quarterback has a hard time holding it and physically gripping the ball to be able to throw it properly.
Right.
Weather is just one of those things where, just like here when it's June or July and it's 110 degrees out, I'm sure the teams that are coming down from Seattle probably aren't used to that either, and they're having to make some adjustments, maybe sub some guys in earlier, things like that.
More on the MLS, Phil. I think you had a question.
This was a poll that I posted out on Twitter the other day. There's 3 players that to me are kind of the standout big names in the MLS right now in terms of scoring players. Two of those are foreign players that have come over from the English League, and then the other is a South American player who has come over. Those would be, I'm probably going to say this wrong, but
Yeah.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic,
The Zlatan.
Wayne Rooney,
Who?
and Joseph Martinez. I think, in my opinion, those are the three biggest names in the MLS right now. What do you think? Do you agree that those are the three big names, or who are some other big name guys that we can watch out for this year?
Yeah, I think, obviously Zlatan is probably the biggest name right now in the MLS. Great career across multiple clubs, multiple countries. Obviously, you have his ego, his personality. But to be fair, he delivers. He scored some great goals last year for the Los Angeles Galaxy. His first goal of the MLS was a volley from 50 yards out.
That was amazing. Hey, welcome to the MLS. I'm here, bitches.
I remember at the time I was in London and I saw it kind of come across my phone, and I texted the group that we were with there and I said, Zlatan just scored a worldie for his debut in the MLS. And it didn't end there. I mean, he's promising to break goal scoring records. Obviously, you got Wayne Rooney coming over, a Manchester United legend, all-time leading scorer for them. And I mean, he's going to do well with his team there in DC. Luciano Acosta has benefited a lot from him coming. Joseph Martinez has been here for a couple of years now. I actually think his numbers are going to fall off a little bit this year. With
Almiron gone.
Yeah, with Almiron gone. They replaced him with a guy named Pity Martinez, who played for River Plate in Argentina. But he's a different type of player than Almiron. So where Almiron likes to run at defenses and get in behind, Pity Martinez likes to sit back and play a pass that no one else sees. And I think Joseph Martinez his numbers will drop off a little bit from that. I would say the other big name to look out for is Nani coming in, signing for Orlando City. Great career at Manchester United, struggled a little bit in Portugal, but now he's here. And I think he'll make a good impact there for Orlando City, who really is kind of at that point in their life as a team in the MLS. They have a great facility down there. They have a great supporters group. They need to step up and really make a push for the playoffs. So I'd keep an eye out for Nani.
Yeah, I think you're right, Matt. I think that's a canny purchase there from Orlando, and he's going to make some waves down there. I think that's going to be great. I have a question for you, right? So we've settled on Minnesota as our team. I don't know about you, Matt, but Phil and I have, because we don't know much about this MLS business. But
Go Loons!
Go Loons, yes, exactly.
Come on, you Loons!
Should we be watching out for another team? Like, who do you think is going to be the title favourite, and who do you think is going to get the wooden spoon, if that's a term over here?
Yeah, Minnesota United's a great shout. We talked with Callum Williams, and he talked about how this is really an important year for them. They're opening up, from what I could tell, probably one of the best stadiums in the MLS, Allianz Field. Google it. Watch a YouTube video. It's amazing. You got teams like the Columbus Crew. They got a new coach in Cable Porter. If he can figure things out, I think they could do really well. You got DC United, who ended last year really strong, and then they just came out this past weekend and beat Atlanta, 2-0. So you got a lot of good teams there in the East. New York Red Bulls are always someone that you can look out for. Philadelphia hopefully might have an uptick in performance, having signed Marco Fabian. But my pick would probably be Los Angeles Football Club.
Oh,
LAFC. Yeah, they had a great first year in the league last year. They're only going to build on that under Bob Bradley. They've added some new players that can really come in and help them. So, they added a guy named Rodolfo Zelia, if I said that right, from El Salvador, who's a forward who should be a great addition. They added another DP. They've added some more defenders. And so I think they're going to be kind of the key there in the Western Conference. And if I had to go with the early prediction, I would pick them to win MLS Cup this year.
One thing I wanted to kind of circle back to before we go off of Minnesota United is another guy that I wanted to talk about real quick and get your opinion on, Matt, is Darwin Quintero. He had a goal and 2 assists the other day, and I think he's definitely the guy to watch for Minnesota this year. What do you think about him?
Yeah, Darwin Quintero is he's 31, right winger. He's kind of getting in that downturn of form. He came over from Club America in the Mexican League, and I think he's going to have to be impactful for the United or for Minnesota United this year if they're going to be successful. And clearly he came out with a great performance this past weekend. He had a strong performance last year, and it's just going to be something they're going to grow on. And so he's definitely their person to watch. And so it should be a good year for him. I don't think Minnesota United would make a deep playoff run, but I think they make the playoffs this year.
That's what we're hoping for.
Real quick, Matt, who is going to come last? I said the wooden spoon. Do you say that over here? You get the wooden spoon for coming last? I don't know if that's a term.
No, we don't use that too much over here, man.
Well, you should. So who's going to come last? Who's going to tank?
I think there's a couple teams that you could look at that could be pretty terrible this year. I don't think San Jose is going to be that great. But my money, I'm going to have to say FC Cincinnati. The newbies this year, the expansion team. They've already started out on a rough footing. They lost 4-1 to the Sounders in Seattle, which I think I saw it's the first time in 2 or 3 years that Seattle's won their opening match. Seattle kind of statistically starts slow, ends very quick. And so I think FC Cincinnati is going to be the worst team. But that should be the expectation for an expansion team, especially a team like FC Cincinnati. Not everyone's like LAFC that took time to build a roster, that took time to build a thing from the ground up, or even Atlanta that did the same thing. FC Cincinnati brought over a lot of the USL players. And so I think they're just going to struggle this year because it's a new team, it's new team chemistry, and they're going to have to learn how to play together.
Do have a good support crew behind them, though, so hopefully they stick with them in their promotion.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I watched that game too, and like you said, they looked more like a USL team to me than an MLS team. They really just looked outclassed by Seattle. They got the first goal, and then that was early on, and then Seattle kind of ran away with it after that.
Yep.
Speaking of USL, we should have a quick look at the upcoming USL season. It starts this weekend. We have a couple of new teams involved and a couple of, well, I think old stalwarts still going to go and battle it out there for both Eastern and Western conferences. New teams coming in. What have you heard of them? Anything?
I keep hearing Nashville is the favorite.
Well, Nashville did sign Cameron Lancaster, who was the leading USL goal scorer last year from Louisville City. And they actually signed him to the MLS Nashville team that'll kick off, I believe, next year. And now he's been loaned to the USL team. So look for him to definitely continue his goal scoring prowess this year, for sure.
Have we done a cheesed off about teams having two teams, an MLS and a USL?
No, but we should because it drives me.
Cheesed off.
Cheesed off.
Look, I don't mind it if they do it right, but I will tell you what, I hate with a passion the laziness that comes from just naming your USL team after your MLS team and just putting the 2 after it. So I'm going to call them out. LA Galaxy 2, Portland Timbers 2. I mean, it's just, it's laziness. Stop doing it, people.
Yeah, seriously. At least Seattle gone and did something right there, I guess. Like they went for what were they called? Tacoma Aroma, I think it is.
It was the Tacoma Defiance.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Defiance. So no, I think other than that, I mean, a lot of new teams here in the Western Conference, man. You got the Austin Bold, El Paso's coming in, New Mexico, was it Fresno? So we got a lot of new faces in the Western Conference that we're going to see play this year.
Absolutely. And 3 divisions as well coming up.
Yeah, the USL now has the 3 different leagues, you know, the League 2, League 1, and the championship, obviously.
Really looking forward to it. And, of course, we have the Four Corners Cup as well, which we spoke about briefly last week or the week before.
Yeah, I mean, so it's very similar to Cascadia Cup played between Portland, Vancouver, and Seattle in the MLS. It's a fan-supported, fan-organized, fan-funded domestic cup, and so it's really cool what the supporters groups for Phoenix and New Mexico, Colorado, and the Real Monarchs have done. It's going to be a little added bonus this season. Gives you something to look forward to during the regular season. So it's really cool. It's a great idea, and I believe it's the first one in the USL.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Four Corners is famous for a reason.
Right.
I knew of this from The Simpsons. They had the Five Corners. That's stupid. That doesn't exist.
Any Simpsons reference, though, is great.
Speaking of references, I think that there was a meme that we made the other day that referenced a very famous movie from the 1930s. And what was that all about? I know that Matt, as a non-Liverpool supporter, you probably want to talk about this one a bit.
It's because Liverpool's bottling the league.
They're wobbling. Oh, have they bottled it?
They've let it slip out of their grasp.
I heard they applied to change their name to Coca-Cola FC.
They're certainly bottling it all over the place, aren't they?
Yeah, it looks like they're not doing too well. I mean, they're not doing too well right now. They're losing some games, drawing some games that they should have won. Shout out, first off, to Everton with a great game plan against Liverpool, and they played really well.
How good was that little ball boy at the end of it, like giving a sarcastic clap to Jurgen Klopp as he's walking? I don't know whether you saw that, but that just summed it up, basically. It was like, you're doing it again, mate, and I'm pretty sure Jurgen Klopp wanted to grab this kid by the throat.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great. But here's the thing about Liverpool. So looking ahead, they're still in Champions League. They've got Tottenham to play. They've got Chelsea to play. And then arguably, possibly the easiest run in of the top four. Let's just go with top four, shall we? Man City's probably got a slightly tougher run through. They've got Tottenham as well. They've got Man United in the derby there. And they've got a couple of relegation-bound teams. By the looks of it, life's looking a little bit rocky for those guys at the top.
The thing I'd say about Liverpool is that their defense is still playing well. I mean, obviously they had another clean sheet. Allison leads the league in clean sheets with 17. So, I mean, out of 29 games, 17 times they haven't given up a goal. They've got the big three back there with Van Dijk and Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. The problem is that they're not scoring goals. And Arran, I know that I mentioned this to you earlier in the season that I felt like Liverpool has a lot of talented goal scorers and they spend too much time trying to set up Mohamed Salah. As good as Salah is, they have Sadio Mane, they've got Shaqiri, they've got Sturridge, they've got guys that know how to find the back of the net. And I just feel like they need to change their offensive game plan because now that Salah is struggling and not scoring like he was earlier, they're just not scoring at all because that seems to be their only game plan on offense.
I think you're right, Phil. I think you're right. I think they're looking to get it to Salah, hoping he does something with it, forgetting that, you've got the cannons behind him. You've got the heavy brigade, if you will, behind him. I think they're all just a little bit titchy, is the word, up there in the English Northwest. They're kind of just worried. They can see 2014 happening again, and they're like, oh, God, no, let's just do what we do, tried and true, and that's going to be their downfall. You're right, mate.
What I think is that, like you said, that really very stressed team right now. It reminds me a lot of like the Boston Red Sox prior to 2004, where it had been so many years since they'd won the championship and so many years since they'd won a World Series, and it was almost just assumed no matter how far ahead they were, something was going to happen, they were going to blow it, and so many times something weird did happen. And they did end up blowing it. And I think Liverpool is that team right now. And I think that Salah, he's a guy that's just running around with the weight of the world on his shoulders in some ways. I remember earlier in the year, and I want to say this was maybe about week 11 or so, he had gone 3 weeks without scoring a goal. Then he scored in the fourth game. And after he scored the goal, his celebration, it wasn't a celebration. He just like literally had a look of relief on his face.
Yeah.
Right now, he's trying to carry the weight of the team on his shoulders, and that's why he's coming up maybe trying to be a little bit too fine with the ball, and that's why it's getting to the goaltender because he's not just shooting it like he normally would.
He reminds me of Alexis for Arsenal in 2016 when Arsenal had a shot at winning the league and Leicester eventually won it that year. The ball was put at his feet, and you're right, he had the weight of expectation upon his shoulders as a relatively new signing that he was going to win the league, and that's not fair on the player itself, and certainly pointing to perhaps, I don't know, I can't say this about Jurgen Klopp, but maybe a little touch of arrogance. It was certainly something in the Arsene Wenger years when that was happening. It was sort of like, yes, no, we're going to do this and we're going to do it my way. I don't think Jurgen Klopp is that sort of manager. This does seem like a kind of set arrogance, shall we say, a little bit of sorry ball there, Matt, if you're still listening, that, this is the way we're going to do it and we'll win it my way. And all of a sudden, the players can't live up to that expectation.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing with Liverpool might just be kind of the same mentality we've seen with Tottenham over the last couple of years. They have the pressure on them. They haven't won anything in years, and the expectation is that this was the year. They came out flying. They were 10 points ahead of Man City in second place at Christmas, and now here we are beginning of March, and they're a point behind. They're not looking as great as they were. Salah's not having the same year he had last year, which I think a lot of us expected. And I think what it is just the pressure's getting him to him.
But what happens with a team like Liverpool is that it is March, it's the beginning of March, so they're going through a rough patch. Every team does it every season.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just the time to get out there and do a couple of extra training practices and off we go. We're going to have a huge run home. As I said, arguably the easier run home over Man City. But it's not lost by any means, as you said, 1 point behind. We've still got 7 games to play. My money's still on Liverpool. Okay, this is going to really irritate me and probably most of the listeners, but as soon as Liverpool does get that breakthrough season, which could be this season, still could be this season, they're going to win it for another couple of years. They won't have the dynasty of the 1980s there with legendary striker Craig Johnson. How are you, mate? He's Australian, by the way. But, that'll all be done. And Liverpool will reign for the next couple of years. I'm still sticking with this. I think this is probably going to happen.
Well, with those young defensemen all under contract for so long, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I mean, this is a team that's built to win now and for the future. The key is like you said, it's going to be getting that breakthrough, whether that ends up being with Jurgen Klopp, whether that ends up being with another manager. They're going to have to get that breakthrough. Otherwise, if it goes on a year or two more and they don't make that, then these guys are going to be wanting to leave and go someplace where they think that they can win.
It'd be very Spursy of them.
So here's the thing. City probably does have the harder fixtures than Liverpool. City plays Tottenham at home and United away. Those are the big 6 competitions that they have left. Liverpool is playing Tottenham at home and Chelsea at home as they're kind of the last big 6. But Chelsea have kind of turned a corner now. Yep. They played really well against City in the League Cup. They played really well against Tottenham at home, won 2-0. And then they went to Fulham and fought against that new manager bounce that Fulham possibly had, and they won there. So I think they're the bigger upturn. City and Tottenham really shouldn't be that big of a match. Tottenham's on the way down. It's so close, man. And I think right now you have to just look at it and say it's City's to lose. If City slip up, then they have the chance. Now, I think the worst thing for Liverpool would actually be beating Bayern next week in the Champions League and continuing on, because then they're going to be stretched thin and they just don't have the squad that City has. City can play in the Champions League and in the Premier League and field 2 different starting 11s and still be competitive. Liverpool do not have that luxury. That's what's going to be the difference. I think City's going to win the league personally.
The other thing that I think is being overlooked a little bit in this discussion is the goal differential advantage that City has.
Mm-hmm.
Man City has 56 goal difference, so they're 56 goals scored more than they've conceded, and Liverpool is 49. So relatively close, but you're right. The big point there, Phil, which you pointed out earlier, was Liverpool's only let in 15 goals across the season, and that's pretty big. That's less than one every other game.
After letting a 10-point lead slip, I don't think Liverpool is going to bounce back. I think City is going to continue on. I could see Tottenham pushing Liverpool to a draw, and then I could see Chelsea beating Liverpool at home. Whereas City, I think, will beat Tottenham pretty well.
Of course you'd see that, mate.
Yeah, but I think you got to look at the upturn. Chelsea statistically has played really well against Liverpool recently. This past year, it was 1-0 until Daniel Sturridge came on and scored an absolute worldie to tie it. And it's those little things, right? I mean, you drop 1 or 2 points here or there, and it's going to decide that title race.
And you have to look at the race for fourth as well. There's 2 points.
Ooh. Well, you got to even look at third, man, really, with Tottenham slipping. I mean, Tottenham in third, Chelsea in sixth. The difference is 5 points. I mean, that.
And Chelsea has a game in hand.
And Chelsea has a game in hand. I mean, Tottenham could slip out of the top 4 at the rate they're going, which I'm sure we'd all love. So, I mean, it's crazy, man. Anything can happen.
Right, Matt, we have a question.
Yes, we do. And our question is from Matt, not Matt Robards, but a listener of ours and actually a friend of mine, Matt Coberly, has been listening to our show on YouTube. And that is another place that you can find us is if you just go on YouTube and search for Across the Pitch. All of our episodes are on there. And Matt has heard us talking a bit about loan players, where one team will loan a player to another. And we have talked about this a little bit, but we haven't quite gone into depth on it. And what Matt is wanting to know is he just doesn't quite understand the concept of why a team would want to loan a player out to another team.
That's good to ask Matt that as well, because basically you are like, I don't know, the loan machine over there at Chelsea at the moment, aren't you?
We are. We got the loan army out there for sure. That might be a different reason than why most clubs would want to loan a player. I think Chelsea does it a lot because it's a good business move. But mostly you loan players primarily to help develop them. So, for instance, if you have a young player, 18, 20, 21, that isn't going to get a lot of first-team playing time at your club, you think, hey, let me send them out on loan to either a lower division club or maybe a club that's going to be lower in the tables in our league. That way he'll get the playing time. He'll get out on the field. He'll be able to develop more. And if a club does it right, it works out really well. Chelsea has 2 people on staff that are kind of the loan coaches, where they're in contact with the loanee player and the club that they've been loaned to see how development's going. Some reasons could be that you have a player that's isn't doing well, and so you want to loan him out to another team, either open up a roster spot to bring in a player or to get his confidence back. We saw this with Chelsea, doing this with Timu Bakayoko, sent him on loan to AC Milan. Alvaro Morata went on loan to Atletico Madrid. So there's just a lot of reasons why you would do that. Kind of think of it this way. It's like in Major League Baseball when they go out in a draft, the younger guys, and then those guys spend time in the farm system. So they're kind of learning how to develop. They're actually getting a lot of game time, and they're getting prepared to then be able to step up into the major leagues. It's really just the same system.
Yeah, you mentioned a bit about financial reasons. It could also be if a team is trying to get another team to pay that player's salary, like when Arsenal was trying to get PSG to take Mesut Ozil to get that $350K a week off the books.
Right. Great question.
That was a great question. I have nothing further to add to that. That was an excellent explanation there, Matt. Wait! We have news across the pitch news desk.
A hat trick.
Oh, a hat trick.
That's 3 times tonight.
And 3 absolute exclusives here to Across the Pitch. Here it is, lads. Gareth Bale has decided he's not going to leave Real Madrid for another bunch of losers.
Oh.
Oh!
Hot take.
Yes,
Man.
Gareth Bale, for those of you who don't know, plays for Real Madrid, filled in that slot that Cristiano Ronaldo left, and the fans over there aren't happy with him. Really not happy with him, but he's a great player, good quality. He'd slot into any side, anywhere in the world, apart from Tottenham Hotspur.
I don't even know if he'd slot into it. I mean, his wages are so outrageous that what team could afford him? I mean, you're looking at a handful. Maybe United, Manchester United, maybe Manchester City, Bayern Munich. But are they really going to want to pay that much money for a 29-year-old who almost kind of seems like he's on the decline already?
What about PSG if Neymar leaves?
Maybe we could see some sort of deal this summer where Bale goes to PSG and Neymar comes to Real Madrid in a player plus cash swap.
Yeah, that's probably the only way. They're like the two big spending clubs at the moment because, well, Chelsea isn't going to be spending anything in the meantime, are they?
Yeah, Chelsea wouldn't even blink an eye at Gareth Bale at this point.
Well, I mean, he could probably fit right back into Tottenham there. He was a former Tottenham player because they're not in the hunt for anything either. Sorry, we give Tottenham a hard time.
But that's because we hate them.
Lads, I've got nothing more to say.
Yeah, I think that was about all we had for tonight, and unless you had anything else, Matt.
No, I think the only thing I have to say is up the rising.
The home opener, of course, Saturday, March 16th. That's when New Mexico United will be coming to town. Those games are a lot of fun, and if you're in the Phoenix area and you have not been to a Phoenix Rising game yet, you need to get out there. You need to check it out. It is absolutely, bar none, the best sports experience in town right now.
I'm glad it right now, Phil.
Thank you, as always, to my brother from down under, Aaron Ayers.
Good night.
Mr. Wizard Matt Robards, particularly wizardly tonight with his MLS depth of knowledge. Thank you again, Matt, for filling me and Aaron a little bit in on a league that we haven't followed as closely as some of the English leagues, and we're really looking forward to the MLS season. One thing we should probably mention is for people looking where to watch the MLS, if you have ESPN Plus, just about every game is streamed live on ESPN Plus. Any games that aren't on ESPN Plus are usually on the Fox Sports Go app, so it's really very easy and very inexpensive to watch all of the MLS matches. As always, I want to thank everybody for tuning in with us tonight. We will be back next week at our normal time, and we will have some other special announcements coming throughout the week, so stay tuned to our Facebook and Twitter. Have a great night.